Hi, how are you doing? Welcome to the Empathy Explorers podcast, the place where you'll find conversations with people that pursue their passion. They share the blueprint to their journey, dive deeply into the habits and goals the fellow explorers share with us. So start packing and make sure you are ready for the journey. So, welcome to the fourth episode of the Empathy Explorers podcast. I have quite a special guest today. I found him through Twitter, and he has a ton of followers. He is one of the biggest UX mentors, as you can say, on the Twitter space. So I'm happy to have him here, and because he was so approachable, actually, he just sent a Google Meet, and we're off to the races. So thank you for taking the time to be on the show. Doug, can you give us a bit of an introduction who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be on and share my story and my passion with everyone. A bit about me. So I am currently working in somewhat of a freelance mode. I had previously, up until the end of last month, worked for a company called CACI, C-A-C-I, which made software for defense and intelligence industries in the United States. Prior to that, I'd worked in a few other roles and positions doing everything from digital signage to working as a web content producer and content creator for the Denver Broncos. And even working, on the phones with Nordstrom Bank as a credit card call center representative and working my way up to a software engineer there. So it's been a very interesting journey. I have a lot of different exposure to a lot of different places. Right now, I'm kind of in between jobs, so I am taking this opportunity to work on the stuff that I've always wanted to work on. So I have a new podcast that's just coming out August 13th. That's called Design Disasters. Recorded the first episode with Sean Chittle and Jonathan Chariot. And it's about all the historical disasters caused by bad designs and the lessons that we can take from them. So I'm working on that. I have a website, UX News Magazine, that I'm beginning to write some more articles for. Nothing up there recently, but some stuff should be coming out soon, so worth keeping an eye on. And then I'm also creating classes for YouTube and a few other places as well. Just teaching everything from dark patterns and recognizing the sort of the evil underhanded tricks that people use to to try and get you to do things against your own will by using sort of tricks of design. To accessibility and inclusive design, and making sure that I'm advocating for making sites and apps that are usable by all. So a lot going on right now. And of course, I'm also trying to do some freelance work and that sort of thing. So I'm available for hire if anybody's out there looking. But it's certainly something, it's an exciting time. And one that I'm very thankful I'm getting the opportunity to do a lot of these projects that I wouldn't otherwise have the chance to do just because of time, honestly. So it's great to be here, and it's great to be able to do things like this as well too. It's very much an honor to be on the show.
Super nice of you to say that. I'll include the resume in the show notes, then people can. Well, you actually listed the resume here as well.
It's a nice little teaser for what we'll talk about, right?
Yeah. One thing that you said was like, I finally get to do the stuff that I always pushed forward. Like, can you give us a bit of an example that you always pushed forward while doing all the other things?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, one of the big things is that I am self-taught. I went to school for journalism. I didn't graduate. I brought up myself through a lot of different experiences and a lot of different jobs, and working very hard on my own. And I wouldn't be where I am today without the help of a lot of people. I think nobody gets to where they are without the help of a lot of people. I believe that it is incumbent on you when you get to a certain point of success to turn around and help the people that are coming up behind you. Because if you're not working to make the world a better place, especially as a UX person, why are you even a part of the industry? Why are you doing what you're doing? So for me, I take that mantra not only in my work, but in my personal life, and trying to put out different educational resources on Twitter, be sort of an online mentor, host some great conversations every morning on Twitter, on my Twitter profile, which for anybody that doesn't follow it, it's at Doug Collins UX on Twitter. I post a question using the hashtag UX Talk, and I let people answer that question each afternoon. I take the best answers from that discussion and talk about them and kind of give my own take on the discussion. It's just sort of part and parcel with who I am and what I want to do. I want to lead these discussions. I want to help people grow because I have just so much help, and I'm passionate about being able to give back to the community that has given so much to me.
Yeah, you can see me in the conversations with Doug actually on Twitter as well. So
all the time, which I love.
Yeah.
I love seeing it when you pop up because it's funny. I don't know how many Twitter followers I have, like 25,000 or something like that right now. But there's like 20 or 30 people that always consistently pop up, and you're in that group, and I'm always like, hey, it's great to see. It's great to see whenever you pop up, and if you're in that group of people, you probably know who you are because you interact with me sticking almost every day. It's great to see them too, and I would love to have more people like that. The more people I can help, and the better I'm doing and making the world a better place, the happier I am.
Well, that's one of the better things that I feel like Twitter is a great platform for, that you keep the discussion going. It's not like a one-sided argument. You state a question and then you repeat like what the great answers were and what your opinion is about it. But I feel like there are not a lot of platforms where that's possible. So
yeah, it's really interesting because I think outside of the UX world in particular, Twitter has kind of a reputation as somewhat of a toxic community, in large part because it does allow for quite a bit of very pointed back and forth. The UX community has really taken Twitter and made it into something that is generally a very, very positive place to be. And it's one of the things I've worked as a software developer before. I've worked as a front-end developer in the past. The development community did not have that, not on Twitter and not really anywhere else I found. It's much more closed off. And I love that the UX world is so open and inviting. And I love that I get to be a part of that and keep those conversations going, especially for the people, like I said, that are new to the industry, still trying to learn and come up. I feel that it's important that we embrace all the different outlooks that UX professionals bring to the table. It really is a wide variety of people that come to us. I've talked to people that are CTOs. I've talked to lawyers. I've talked to students. I've talked to housewives. I've talked to burger flippers. I've talked to people that haven't worked in 20 years, who are all getting into the UX industry, and they're all bringing these really unique viewpoints and really unique experiences that you don't find anywhere else within the tech industry. And it gives our profession a really unique point of view and some really unique experiences to draw upon to help us make sure that what we're creating is really what's best for our users. So having that diversity of experience and being able to draw on that is a huge advantage for the UX world. And I want to do my part by helping to bring those people in and help them along in their careers.
Yeah, I feel you actually bring those people together, even from like all different countries and such. I saw you were on a podcast for what country was it? Nigeria or something?
Nigeria. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen the old T-shirts in the United States. I'm big in Japan or whatever. I'm big in Nigeria for whatever. And I so hope I get to go out there because I have a lot of people in Nigeria that follow me, and they are just really just wonderful people to talk with. Always the best people to work with. Just so warm and inviting and open. And I love getting a chance to work with them. Yeah, it was Azakateri. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. My French isn't my best language. But they are a group of UX and design professionals that are helping lead the way of conversations in Nigeria. It was great to be a part of that podcast. We talked a lot about accessibility and inclusive design. And it was great to be able to sort of lead the discussion on that. And it's been wonderful to be, have these opportunities to have these conversations again with a wide variety of people from all over the world. And one of the things I was doing recently was doing these coffee break chats where I would post, I have a couple of times a day, 15 minutes. I'd say, have a coffee with me. Take your time. 10 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my time, which translated to all sorts of times all over the world. But I got people from Nigeria, Bangladesh, India, Japan, Pakistan, France, UK, Canada, United States, of course, all over the United States. And it was just such a wonderful experience. I'm going to be doing that again here soon, and be posting about that as well and opening that back out, because it was a great way to meet some people and really begin to understand. I think UX gets such a Western world focus to it that I think it's easy sometimes to forget about some different cultures and how their wants and needs are different from an experience perspective. That when I got a chance to talk with these folks and begin to try and understand some of the problems they were going through and try and help them work through those things, it really broadened my horizons. And so it really is a gift to be able to talk with so many people from just all over the place.
Can you dive a bit deeper on that? Like I can
Yeah.
know for a fact like that the reading pattern is different, for instance.
Mhm.
But what kind of examples did you broaden your horizon with?
My favorite one was someone I was talking with in Bangladesh, who was working to create an app to help get, they're not really convenience stores, they're almost like convenience carts. Everything that you'd think in the United States you'd have like at a 7-Eleven, or in the European Union, this, a small market, that sort of thing. These carts have, and this person was trying to create a way for vendors to get supplies to their carts without having to go through a middleman. So the way that they had sort of gone about this in the past was that there would be these vendors that would come around selling, I'm only selling hand sanitizer, or I'm only selling Gatorade, or whatever it might be. And you were kind of at their mercy for whenever they decided to come around to restore your stock. And they were very pushy. If they had products that they wanted to get rid of that you didn't want, they'd sit there and push and push and push and try and get you to buy it. And then if they needed to get anything like fresh produce, well, they had to actually leave their cart, go to the market, buy the fresh produce, bring it back to their store, and then reopen their cart. So that's business downtime that's for them. And so there was just understanding that problem, wrapping my head around that problem, trying to understand what daily life was like for these folks, was a big culture change, because that's not your sort of typical type of business problem that you have in the United States. But then also working from a professional perspective, okay, well, we have this app. How are we going to go about actually researching with these folks, right? And trying to use UX best practices and UX research techniques that I know, and adapt them for a culture that doesn't have a lot in technology beyond just smartphones. And even then, the level of expertise on smartphones was sort of, I can use Facebook, but that's about it. It was just sort of a cultural thing for this particular group that he was trying to solve for. So a lot of different interesting cultural problems to help solve, from a business perspective, and then cultural problems from a UX technique perspective, trying to figure out how to work through that. I think honestly, it was one of my most exhilarating calls, because it was great to try and understand that problem and give some guidance there. And hopefully things worked out. I haven't heard back to see, what the story was with that, but if you're listening, you know who you are. Please.
It sounds like a really complicated issue, actually. So
it really was. I scheduled 15 minutes, and I think we ended up talking for like an hour and a half. But when you don't have a lot going on your calendar, sometimes you can do that. So.
It's really nice. Really nice if that will help him in the end with the app that he makes. So.
Well, and I will say, I think so. I had around about 40 of these conversations, 40 to 50, somewhere in there. I think maybe 3 went 15 minutes, and the rest were all at least half an hour. Oh, apologies about that. I thought I had my phone set on silent. Yeah. There we go. Somebody else is going. Yeah, they're saying, "Oh, he's free for a coffee break now." So let's get him. Apologies about that.
No problem. No problem. I wanted to revert back a bit to your Twitter game. I think I discovered you, like, I was browsing through some hashtags, and I think it was like UX fail or something, and I saw you were quite active, like sharing like funny images you found on the internet, or found yourself, like door handles, all kind of weird stuff that people shared on the internet. And that's what actually brought me to you. And then there was like a whole universe of extra content behind that. So that was really funny for me, actually, to start with something so small and just like kind of yeah, how do you say that, relief from the rest or something. And
It's funny too because I'm wearing a shirt. You can't see it, but I've got my Launch the Octopus
Launch
shirt
the
on.
Octopus, yeah,
I got my Launch the Octopus shirt on, so which is actually one of the images that that came through that. I make shirts. I sell them. I sell them, but nobody buys them. Whatever. Um,
you also
but
have
they're
one
based on
with
a lot of these things.
Laura
Yeah.
Epsom, right?
Right, absolutely. So, warning: lorem ipsum, dolor sediment. They're all based off of some of these things that I've found. This Launch the Octopus piece was a button that I had found that had that truck logo with your little octopus on it there. I've never wasn't prepared to model while I was doing this, but that's okay.
I really want to
With
make
the
like
little with the little light logo on it,
yeah.
and I said, what does this button do? Does this activate the grow light, turn on the shower, or launch the octopus? And people got behind Launch the Octopus, so that's kind of where that got started. But I love sharing these things that are, especially, you talk about the doorknobs. That was one that, was a doorknob that, or door handle that you could open the door by pushing in or pulling out or going up or down. Whatever way you wanted to use it to release the latch, you could do that.
Yeah.
I love finding these physical manifestations of user experience because I think they really help people connect with some of the concepts that are more abstract behind them. And in some cases, like with the lorem ipsum, that came from a warning label that was on a product that I think was from China, where somebody had put a warning on the back of a product, but they had forgotten to remove the lorem ipsum, which I think is every designer's worst nightmare, is leaving that lorem ipsum text, especially in some place as important as a warning. So it's those things that help keep us laughing, keep us happy. We all need a laugh right now, and it's certainly one of those things that I love to share, and I'm glad it brings some people to me because it's easy to connect with and
yeah, it starts a conversation.
Light and happy.
It starts a conversation while being a lightweight content. So it's a really good one.
Yeah, those are the best ones, are the ones that start conversations, right? Because you want to have some fun, but you also want people to get value out of it. I remember there was one that had a mountain bike that was packaged like a television. So essentially it was this company called Van Moof that had problems with mountain bikes being damaged during shipping. And they decided, okay, well, instead of just, putting our, Van Moof and the picture of a bike or whatever we may have on it, we're going to make it, look like a TV box,
Super
look like
fragile.
A flat screen TV box. Right. Absolutely. And they put a picture of a flat screen TV with a bike on it, on the front of the box. And it doesn't say that it has a bike in there, but people look at it and they see, okay, it's about the size and shape that I expect a flat screen TV box to be. It has a picture of a TV box on it. And so people, humans are great at pattern recognition. They recognize this as a pattern they're familiar with. And they say, okay, well, this is a TV. I don't want to break this. I got to be more careful with it. And Van Moof had damage rates fall by 80% after they put that box design in play. And one of the conversations that we've had around this is this a dark pattern, right? Is this something that we're influencing people to do things that they wouldn't otherwise do for the benefit of a business? And you can say, yeah, it might be something that is influential, but where do we draw the line between influential design and underhanded design? In this case, everybody wins, right? It's not just the business that's winning. Consumer gets a bike that's not damaged. The shipping company doesn't have to worry about complaints about damaged shipments nearly as much. And the bike company doesn't have to, fulfill as many requests for returns, exchanges, that sort of thing. When I look at dark patterns, I always have three things that I look at. Was it designed intentionally? Does it influence somebody to do something they wouldn't otherwise do? Does the benefit fall primarily to the designing company, in this case, Van Moof? And I would say the first two, yes, the third one, no. But it's the type of conversations these pieces generate. And I love having those conversations and generating those conversations because it's a great way, again, that people can relate to this. This is getting something damaged in the mail is something I think everybody has gone through, especially now with the pandemic that we're doing 90% of our shopping online. We're all there in the same place.
Yeah, I think it's, what do you feel like? Is it a dark pattern?
I don't think so. I think it satisfies those first two requirements. It certainly does. It certainly was intentionally designed, right? When I talk about intentional design, I always say, think of Hanlon's razor, which is, um, uh, never assume malice where stupidity is a reasonable explanation, but don't rule out malice. Not every design is designed to be evil, is designed to be underhanded. Sometimes it's just bad design. In this case, I think it was intentionally designed, obviously, and that's fine. That's great. Does it influence somebody to do something that they wouldn't otherwise do on their own? Absolutely. It influences the people that are carrying the shipment to be more careful with it, which is something that, as evidenced by the fact that the damage rates fell 80%, they weren't doing previously. So it's influencing the shipping carrier to be more careful with the product. The last piece is, does the benefit fall primarily to the designing organization? In this case, that's Van Moof. So in this, if Van Moof was the only one benefiting from this, I'd say no, but everybody benefits from this in this case. The consumers get, more often they get a whole bike. Van Moof has to do fewer returns and replacements, and the shipping company has fewer complaints. So I think everybody wins in this. So I don't think it's a dark pattern by my book. But certainly there was a lot of discussion and people that felt that because it was so influential that maybe, and because it was deceptive by putting that TV on there, that maybe it was. I don't think it was. But then we got into a larger conversation beyond that. And it was interesting to read. There is a snowboard company that does something similar, right? And what they do is they have on their box, they put electric lights. And it's Signal Snowboard Company for anybody that wants to go out there and look at the Signal snowboard box. But it's like these long electric,
strips,
halogen light. Yeah, right. The long bulbs, right? And it doesn't say, as a matter of fact, it actually says on there electric lights. It doesn't say snowboards. And so you go, okay, that's still being deceptive. That's probably even more deceptive because Van Moof's packaging never says anywhere on it that it's TV. It just happens to be the same size and shape, have a picture of a TV. This takes it one step further. It says, yeah, it's electric lights. And you go, okay, well, is that becoming an area of a dark pattern, especially if more and more companies start to do this? So if everybody started to do this and put their, packaging as, something that was very fragile, then at some point in time, shipping companies would start to go, well, we know everybody's lying, so we're going to go back to just, tossing things around the truck again like we always did. And, damn it, it'll be what it is. So
yeah, that's the thing. Like it can shift to the other way somehow,
right?
And
yeah, absolutely. And I don't think anybody's perspective on it is necessarily wrong, but it's great to have these conversations because these are the type of ethical design conversations that are really lacking in the UX and design world. It was interesting. I was reading a piece from Joe Natoli the other day that was essentially saying that UX designers don't have the authority to make ethical stands. And that's very true. Very often we're told by product managers, product designers, we have to do this particular pattern or we have to do this particular thing. And as a UX designer, you will get fired if you try and stand up for that in a lot of circumstances, try and stand up for the ethical side of things and draw that line in the sand. And, I know people who've gotten fired for that. And I think that's in large part because we don't spend enough time teaching ethics. And the people that are willing to make those ethical stands are not making it into leadership positions, in large part because they are sort of accustomed to making those ethical stands.
Do you feel like UX designers or researchers should be more like top level then for companies?
Yeah. I always believe that UX is such a unique environment and such a unique discipline in that we are one of the very, very few roles within a company that talks to absolutely everyone. There are so few roles that get to talk to the users, get to talk to development, get to talk to technology, QA, get to talk to product management, right? Marketing, literally every aspect of the organization comes through UX. One of the big things that we can do as UX professionals is help facilitate communication because we have some of those really wonderful pieces and help drive strategy, right? I think companies that include sort of an upper level UX person really benefit from that sort of facilitated communication and overall strategy that really is a competitive advantage. The ones that don't, I think, are missing out. So I think you'll see a trend for that more and more, but it's a slow trend as people are beginning to sort of pick that up, and as UX professionals are beginning to make moves in their career to sort of move towards those higher levels. I think there'll be more and more of those jobs out there.
Yeah, I think like UX design, especially here in Europe, is not that long acknowledged. Actually, it's
Right.
maybe 10 years or so. I think it's quite young for such a name that it has right now.
Right. Well, and you know, a lot of the things that UX does have been done by jobs with other job titles
Yeah,
over, over the previous years. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not UX as a job title stays around, but the core concepts of understanding users' wants and goals and needs and pain points, and working with the users and working within all aspects of the organization to be user centered and user focused, that's not going away. Whatever we end up calling that is another thing, but that's not going away, and it's been around for a long time too. It's just been under different names and sort of sort of melded between different jobs. You're right that it's very recently that's been, sort of one focused role. But that's only something that's great for our profession, and only something that is really going to help our, economy and business grow over the next, 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah. As you said earlier, I think the people that are now like UX designers, UX researchers will evolve maybe in the new strategists for the bigger companies, and then they can finally have the power to actually change the things that benefit the user.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Okay. I wanted to ask you a quick question about why did you pick Twitter as your main platform and didn't really diversify to, for instance, Instagram? You are diversifying with podcasts and such, but
yeah. So that's a good question. The Miss America answer, sort of the happy answer, is that the community on Twitter is I think more developed and more open than most other social networks. To be honest, I don't do a whole lot on Facebook anymore. I disagree with a lot of their privacy practices, so I have an account, but there's like 3 things on it. I just don't get over there very much. And there's not a need to from a UX perspective. I can have all the conversations I need to in different places. Instagram is limiting in some ways in that you have to have an image to go along with every piece of content, where not everything I do has an image associated with it. Like the questions that I ask every morning, I could pull a stock image from somewhere, I guess, if I wanted to do that. But the impudence to interact and engage with content creators isn't quite as robust as it is on Twitter.
It's more.
I am just breaking.
I feel like it's more sending and than receiving comments, and the conversation goes around in DMs, not publicly.
Absolutely, and you'll get likes and maybe a comment here and there, but it's kind of like shouting into a void in a lot of ways. YouTube, I think, is great for a lot of what I want to do in terms of longer format training and free content, free video content out there. I'm starting to get into that. I'm on everywhere. If you find Doug Collins UX on any platform, that's me. So I'm starting to get into that, but I haven't found that it's as easy to grow an audience with YouTube as it is with Twitter. And that's, for me, if I'm being honest with you, the big thing that set it apart is that Twitter is very easy to grow an audience with if you know how to do it. And it doesn't take a ton of effort to grow a very sizable audience very quickly. You have to be a little bit careful about some of the techniques you use to follow and unfollow people and that sort of thing. That gets into sort of the business of growing a Twitter account, which is, I suppose, probably another podcast. But it helps that the community and the UX community is much more robust and engaged on Twitter, and really gave me an impudence to do that, rather than just saying to do, say, write my own blog or sort of work through that method. I'm trying to expand out and, work on podcasts, do more YouTube videos and that sort of thing. So, we'll be experimenting with that and see how that can go through. I just dropped my first, teaser, trailer for my podcast today, and it's already got a few hundred, watches. So, fingers crossed. Hopefully, hopefully that'll work out well. Cause I would love that. I went to school to do broadcast journalism. And my dad always told me I had a face made for radio. So for everybody watching this, I apologize. But it's I would love for a podcast to be able to be a viable option of career fields for me going forward. So you can make that happen. Not you necessarily, but you, everybody watching this in general. So
Yeah. You mentioned actually that you said like Twitter is quite easy to gain a following. I find it actually quite hard to get real traction somehow. I'm not on there that often, but I engage with conversations from others. But most of the time I don't really know what to post myself. Actually,
it's less about what you post, although having good content is certainly helpful. And it's more about how you go about following people. Which is the main way that people find out about you. So when I'm building, I have some things where I have built content and created content to fill needs that I see within the Twitter community, having these conversations, having something funny. I think sometimes UX can be very sort of stuffy and business forward. So having something that's funny out there, I thought was a great thing. But if you can find and feel comfortable with sort of a niche of content within that, this is how you build a Twitter following, and it's takes maybe 10 to 15 minutes a day. You need to find a list of accounts that have similar content to yours, not necessarily the same, but at least close enough, and that are larger accounts, usually preferably above about 10,000 followers. Put all of those people on a list, maybe about 20 or 22 people if you can find a good group about that size. And every day, if you go and look at each individual on that list and look at who's followed them recently, you can go in and follow those folks up to 400 people a day. That's how a vast majority of people will find out about you and your content. What happens is that, when you start to follow those people, you start to get a lot of follow backs because again, there are people that are recently subscribed recently following people that are similar to you. So you already know that A, they're active, that B, they're engaged. You know that C, they're looking for people to follow. And you know that D, they're looking for the people to follow that create stuff similar to what you're creating. So you're checking off a lot of boxes there. If I do that, I haven't been as robust about doing that recently, but when I do that, I get somewhere between 70 and 150 followers a day. And it maybe takes me 10 to 15 minutes to max that out. You'll be rate limited to 30, and I think it's like 30 in 2 minutes. So you have to kind of keep it slow. But, it's one of those things. And then the other flip side of that is going in and taking out old accounts, right? So accounts that you maybe followed a while back, but didn't follow you back. You can go and remove those because there's a certain percentage of your followers versus people that you follow that you're allowed to follow. So for instance, up till 5,000 followers, you can follow up to 5,000 people, but no more than that. Once you get above 5,000 followers, it's 10% more on top of that. So if you're at 10,000 people, the most you can follow is 11,000. So 10% more on top of that before you have to start pruning people off to follow more. So it gets to be one of those things. If you make that part of your daily process, it's very easy to build a Twitter following, assuming that you've identified that niche and you've identified those similar accounts. It's just a matter of going and doing the work. And I haven't been as good about that. I think I've only added a few hundred followers in the last few months because I haven't been as good about that. But it's starting to get to the point for me where I get a lot of people just following me, which is a nice change. That it's not as much of a grind, but it's still something that I need to do, and still something that's important to me because those are the ways that I find the people that are new to the industry that I feel that I can help the most. And I'm doing that and trying very hard to stay within the Twitter terms of service and doing that and being very careful about how I follow and unfollow people and not using any extra tools or anything like that. But it's important to be able to find those people and sort of have that practice. But if you do that, you can absolutely grow a Twitter account pretty easily, and get, more than a few thousand followers. When I do that, I think I had somewhere between 1,500 and 3,000 followers a month. So you can do that there pretty quick.
Okay, well, that's a strategy that I've never used actually. So maybe that's the.
Well, and I will say, like you, when I first got on Twitter, and I was on Twitter for a few years before I started that strategy, my goal was just to post good content and hope that people would find the content and use good hashtags, kind of maybe tag some influencers on that and hope that would grow mine. And it didn't. It didn't work. And so people have had success with that, but it's a lot harder way of doing things. I think that having that good content is one thing, but if people can't find you and they don't know about you, it doesn't matter the content you're creating. Without a marketing budget to promote your tweets, promote your content, it's going to be very, very difficult to grow things. So you do have to do, unfortunately, a lot of that following and liking and making people, aware that you exist and that your content is out there. And then once you get them sort of looking at you and they go, oh, this is somebody that's interesting. This is somebody that has content that I'm interested in. That's when they make that decision that, okay, I'm going to follow this person.
Okay. That's, I think really valuable for people starting out on Twitter, because I feel like Instagram has a lot of more, ways to start engaging. I think the hashtags work a bit better there than on Twitter. And you can find people a bit more more easy, I guess. But as you said it right now, I think, I've never looked at people that follow bigger accounts for the first time, and follow them back. That's a great way to start a conversation with people, like-minded.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think my other camera died, so I'm switching webcams here for you.
I saw it, but I didn't want to ruin your statement on Twitter, because it was really valuable for us. So.
Well, let me get that changed over there. You're gonna have a little bit of background there, but I came prepared, so I can actually make sure I turn the right light off. It's not that one. Yeah. So when I left my previous job, I decided I was going to sink some money into buying the video equipment to do really good content creation. So I actually have a lighting set. This is a 3-point lighting system. So the same light that I have back here, I have one here and one here. Then I have a 4K camera that was recording that I think I may have just jostled the cord near my desk, and it looks like it got unplugged. So, so yeah, I'm going to be a little bright, but this is, I think this is this.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
And, one thing that you shared on Twitter, that's what really got me going for, like, I wanted to connect with you. We've talked about it before, but it was the back of the truck image. Yeah. What I found, it was super vulnerable of you to share that. And, I really want to know how did you feel, in those days, and what happened in that situation? Because it must be really tough from an outside perspective.
Yeah. So I lived in the back of my car for, a while I was sort of new to the UX world. So back in 2009, I, was working as a call center rep for Nordstrom Bank. Nordstrom is a major fashion retailer here in the United States. I was working, as a call center representative, taking, customer requests for information about their credit cards. About that same time, I met this really wonderful girl. And she was in Colorado for grad school, decided she didn't, want to do the graduate program she was working on, and said, I'm moving back to California. I had known her for 6 months at this point. So I said, okay, well, I'll move to California with you. And, she was living with her mom. I couldn't live with her and her mom at that point. And I sort of left very rashly without a plan of where I was going to live or what I was going to do. And didn't realize how expensive it was to live in California at that point in time. You essentially needed to have 3 months rent saved up. You have first loans last month and then 1 month worth of security deposit, which, making, I think I was making $12 an hour at that point. It didn't matter how much I was working. I wasn't going to be able to save that up and just subsist. So I had all my stuff in the back of my, my Ford Escort, and, most nights I spent, at a rest stop, just north of San Diego, on, the 5 freeway. And yeah, it was a tough time to say the least, but it was a very formative time for me because it was during that time that I started to really get into UX design because I actually had a lot of time on my hands. The job that I was working was up in Orange County, which for those that don't know is closer to Los Angeles. People think, especially people not in the United States, tend to think of Los Angeles and San Diego as being very close. But depending on traffic, it can be 4 hours to get from LA to San Diego. So, and then with our own schedules, there was maybe a day or two a week that we had where we could actually go and see each other and that sort of thing. So I
I
ended up with
think
a lot of time.
I think European people only know Orange County from Orange County Chopper. So
Yeah, exactly right. And fortunately, I never ran into those guys. They are very big and scary. I'm
yeah,
not a big guy. I'm 5'6", maybe 5'7" on a tall day. But so yeah, Nordstrom Bank had this system for their credit representatives that was very restrictive. They credit in the United States, and I'm sure most places, is a very highly regulated industry. There are things that you have to do in certain situations, things that you can't do in certain situations, things that you have to say, things that you can't say. And for their representatives to sort of find all this information, it was just all in a single website that was in front page 2004 was what it was created in. And this was 2009. So that gives you an idea of, sort of where things were at that point. There was no search functionality. So unless you knew, and everything was alphabetized, in there, but it was sort of just sort of random topics. And there was a lot of stuff that was just sort of thrown in there. So unless you knew exactly where a particular piece was, you could spend a lot of time just keeping your customer on hold, just looking through the policy manual to try and figure out how to do something or what you had to say or what you couldn't say. So in between phone calls, I started to try and make a system that was better. I had some experience doing coding and design. And I just said, okay, I had Notepad, I had Internet Explorer, and between phone calls, I started to write this little page. And it started off with just being a set of links to the things I use most commonly, and then sort of grew from there to, include some JavaScript stuff where I could, there were common notes that we would put on accounts that maybe there was only one or two variables like dollar amounts or that sort of thing. So I could put in, different dollar amounts and we spit out the note that I could copy and paste into it. It just sort of grew and grew and grew. And then I began to test it with the people around me and saying, okay, well, I think I'm solving problems for me, but what problems do other people need? And sort of use my computer as a host to allow other people to access it, which our IS department was not happy with. But all this time I'm doing this while living out of my car. And I remember it was a weeknight. I had worked 63 or 64 hours that week, and I had just gotten off work. I went over to a McDonald's off the 405 freeway in Orange County, and that was the first time I saw the words user experience design. And it just, once I saw what that was and what it entailed, everything just clicked for me. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm already doing. I just need an opportunity to do it.
So it's literally a sign of the universe.
Right.
Literally.
It literally was. And so I ended up working on this project over the course of about 4 years, and finally was able to pitch it to the company's CEO as part of a program they had to try to identify talent within the call center that they could move up into different positions in the company where they could use that talent a little bit better. I remember the CEO, after I pitched the
just
idea,
a little bit better.
Yeah, a little bit better. Well, and so in this case, I had actually done research that showed we could save 34 seconds per call, which in the call center world is huge. You extrapolate 34 seconds per call over 200 calls per representative, 300 representatives on the phones per day. You start to get an idea that you're saving millions of dollars a year in productivity. And I did this with some variable tests to see, okay, we're going to test some call center representatives using my system and the existing system, of different variety of sort of typical calls, and sort of see the average amount of time that was saved per call. And I remember after I pitched it to the CEO, he turned to the room. He's like, "Why aren't we already doing this?" And from that moment on, I was on the track to be a software engineer. I was promoted to be a software engineer, and was very thankfully no longer have to live in my car. And obviously, I'm not living in my car anymore, which is great. But I haven't forgotten what it was like to be in that situation, which is a big impotence for me to help those people, again, coming up behind me, because there are so many people that are getting into the UX world that aren't in great spots, that maybe are looking at things right now and going, I have so many things going on in my life that are preventing me from being successful. I want to show them that if I can do it, they can do that too. And maybe be an inspiration for someone to, keep working at it, to keep driving, to not give up, to say, I'm only done when I say I'm done. I'm only giving up when I say I'm up. As long as I don't give up, there's the opportunity that could happen for me, and that this could be the career that I want it to be. And even if it doesn't end up being UX for them, even if it ends up being something else, hopefully that story will help, keep people moving forward in whatever it is that they're doing, and understanding that, it's not about your constraints. It's about how much you're willing to put in, how much you're able to put in. And I should say I've failed at a lot of things in life. I failed at so many jobs and so many careers. That finally found one that worked for me, even though I had to work hard to get to where I am. It's tremendously rewarding, and hopefully I can bring a little bit of that reward back to the people that are investing their time and spending some time with me.
Yeah, as you said, I was quite lucky to be. I did a thesis for an agency, and they actually hired me after that. So when I graduated, I was able to get a job instantly. And that helped me a lot with gaining a ton of experience in the first years. And I think that's so important to get. People that get stuck after graduating they don't really know what they want. Maybe they want freelancing, but to be honest, I think a lot of people are not made for freelancing, because that's really tough, actually.
It is. Yeah.
And I'm actually doing the other way around now. I'm at an agency, and I'm slowly working towards doing a bit more freelance stuff on the side, and maybe see how that evolves. But if it's not evolving, then I'm just staying with the agency because it's great there. So,
right.
I don't know what your opinion about that is. But.
I mean, freelance life is tough. This is my first real foray into it. And I have the luxury of having a large audience. So I've had some opportunities come my way that I'm considering that wouldn't have come to me if I didn't have such a large following, which is great. It's nice to be able to have that, but I can't imagine trying to do this with, starting from scratch, day one being, would have been August 1st for me, so 10 days ago. It would feel harrowing, and I would probably feel even more lost than I do right now. It's great to have some opportunities coming my way. There's, some different pieces, in terms of like a music sharing app that wants me to work with them. I actually have an opportunity to possibly do, some more, work for, the defense industries.
But do you feel like that comes from the audience that you have, or also the
absolutely.
credentials that you build up in the years?
I have a permanent case of imposter syndrome and generalized anxiety. I never give myself credit for the things that I've been able to do. And even when I look back and I talk about, working in my car and, trying to work my way up within the company, externally, I know that I worked really hard to be successful, that not everyone is capable of doing what I did, of, working between phone calls, or, taking the time at night to read up on coding, read up on design, learn new programming skills, learn new design skills. Not everyone's capable of doing that. And it's not an indictment of anyone. It just means that career just isn't for you. And that's okay. Or maybe in that step in your career, maybe now's not the right time to take it. That's okay too. I know that externally, but internally I go, well, if there hadn't been that program for, me to make this pitch to, would I ever have had a chance to move up? Probably not. I don't know if that's actually the case, but that's how I feel. And then I think about all the other things that have had to happen for me to get to where I am. There's been a lot of luck involved along the way, and I have failed. Like I said, I failed a lot. I failed at being a journalist, a written reporter. I failed at being a broadcaster. I've been fired from jobs as a waiter. I've been fired from jobs as a electronics store manager, as assistant electronics store manager. I've been fired from so many things, and there have been so many ventures that I've tried, even within this UX sort of realm, that haven't worked. That it's very easy for me to say, well, I am where I am. not so much because of my own skills, but just because I've kept trying and then I've gotten lucky. And that someday everybody's just going to figure it out and they're all going to unfollow me. But one of the reasons why I talk about this and I talk about the imposter syndrome and the generalized anxiety is because I'm aware so many people have this. It's by far not just me. I every
think it's
day
quite big
when
in the design world, actually.
absolutely, and we don't talk about it enough, right?
No.
A lot of people feel so isolated because the design community doesn't talk about it enough. That we aren't doing enough to remove that stigma of taking of our mental health, of those conversations around our mental health, of what it takes to really take care of ourselves, and understanding that when we have a problem, we need to do the right things to help take care of ourselves as well too. It really is a very lonely feeling. A lot of times you feel, especially I think maybe you and I have talked about this before. I can't remember, but I've talked about this a lot on Twitter. You see a lot of success on Twitter. People post about the projects that worked great, or the designs they have that are just killer, or the podcast they're creating that's awesome. But you don't see those failures, right? And you don't see the things that didn't go right. All of the failures that had to happen along the way for those people to get to that success. We're only showing success. And so people think the only way I can compete in this environment is to be successful. And that's absolutely not the case. You don't have to succeed at everything you do. The only thing you have to do is keep trying. And as long as you keep trying, as long as you make that commitment to not give up, and take care of yourself along the way, make sure that you're okay, be checking in with people, make sure that you're taking time for yourself, and not doing more than what you're capable of, you will be successful eventually. It will come. I don't know who out there that's listening to this needs to hear that, but if that's you, hang in there. Just keep trying. The only way you can fail permanently is if you give up. Otherwise, it's just a matter of how many times you need to try in order to be successful.
Yeah, and as you said, like you talked about luck, but do you know that quote? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. I feel like that is also a bit of the case with you, because you tried so many things that in some way the opportunities come back to you if you are still going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the opportunities are there, and as my reputation grows and my follower base grows, I'm lucky to get more and more opportunities, and it's great to have that. Certainly, there's a lot of preparation involved with things. None of this happens by accident, even if it feels that way to me. I have to internalize to myself that I do a lot of work to put myself in situations where I can be successful, where people will hear from me. It's everything from, getting on and doing, podcasts like this one that's, where I can give a message of positivity and more people hear it, more people want to talk with me, to, just taking the time with those coffee break chats and connect with people individually and say, you have a problem or you just want to talk or whatever it might be, let's connect and let's talk. And the more people I connect with, the more opportunities that come my way. And it's great to have that network. And I can't understate the importance of having a network for people that are deciding whether or not that's something they want to invest time in. I think given any other options of what you can do, to invest your time to grow your career, finding a way to network, whether it's with social networking or hopefully when the pandemic dies down and we're all able to get back together again, doing in-person stuff and going to conferences and getting to meet people. That's really the most important thing you can do to grow your career, is just grow that network, and in any way that you can.
Yeah, and as you said, like our job is in some ways quite lonely, and that's really controversial to like network, and we also feel lonely at times. I recognize that if I'm in a bad spot or something, I always go back to like creating, but that's headphones on, music on, solo. That's not networking. That's not putting it out there. That's not sharing the struggles that you have. That's just like isolating the problem only inside yourself and not putting it out there.
Right. Well, if that's what you need to do, if that's what helps you feel better, then by all means do that. You have to accept that that's not going to help you grow your network, but you have to accept that that's self-care that you need to do to help you be successful just in general in life. I have the things that I like to do that don't grow a network that that I don't share a whole lot of because I don't think most people are interested in them. I love to cook. Okay, that's great. I know a lot of people in the yolks world love to cook, but whenever I post about it, it never really gets a whole lot of traction. I'll put up a picture every now and then, but that's about it. I love to cook. I love to fly drones. I love to do photography. I love to, go out and play hockey or right, exactly.
That's really cool to see. Because it was like the first time you shared that. I think the drone photography one.
Yeah, it's hard to find time to fly right now. With a wife and 2 kids. Oh, I forgot the most important part of the story of the Nordstrom story. So the woman, how could I hope she doesn't listen to this because she's going to be angry. The woman that I followed to California, after about a year in California, I convinced her to come back to Colorado with me, and she is upstairs taking care of our 2 kids right now, Henry and Phoebe. And it was really amazing that I was lucky enough to find somebody that can help me share this crazy life. And she's still here 10 years later.
That's an amazing
11
journey
years this December.
Together.
Yeah, it really is. I'm beyond lucky. But yeah, so with 2 kids and a wife and trying to do these different projects and looking for jobs and freelance work, it doesn't leave a lot of time for photography or drone photography. But the pictures I posted the other day were taken from a park near my house that I had 5 minutes between going from my house, going to my mother-in-law's house to help her put up her TV and get that set up. That I'm like, it's sunset, it's gorgeous. I'm just going to take this time just for me. For this 5 minutes, go out and fly and take some pictures.
I think it's also good to have some things that you're not really sharing. Some people feel like they have to share like every hobby they have, but then it turns into like, oh, it's just like for the content. It's not for actually getting happiness out of it somehow.
Yeah, you can definitely fall into that trap. Especially, I think the more followers you have, the more you begin to sort of see those, especially that core group as your friends, and you want to share things with them. Then it becomes, now I have nothing special for me. I don't have anything that's just for me. And it is definitely, I guess, a professional hazard of having a larger social network. But
because
the other
your
side
mindset
of it
goes to like, oh, this could be great content. This could be great content. And then...
Yeah, absolutely. You go, yeah, people will be interested in this. It's one of the things. Whenever I ask about, occasionally I'll post questions on there. What else do you do to, recharge your batteries, or what other hobbies do you have? And probably the 2 most common things are photography and cooking. I'm like, well, okay, so maybe there is a market out there for that. But, sometimes you have to keep those things just for you. And, the other thing is that, if we're talking about growing a network online, you kind of tend to have a niche that you fall into, that it's okay to post some content sort of outside of that. But if you start to post too much, you're going to lose people. And that's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. It's a balance between, wanting to seem professional, wanting to seem human. But I think you can definitely skew especially when you're trying to make a very professionally oriented profile, you can skew too professional and seem too robotic and not seem human enough. So it's posting just enough to remind people that yes, I'm actually a person with other things that I do, but not annoying them so much that they go away and go somewhere else for the content, because
I feel like you don't really have a problem with that. If someone is approachable on Twitter, then it's you. So that's.
Oh, well, thank you. That's what I try for. It's the more people that are comfortable with talking with me, I think the better off. Yeah. The better off everyone is. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I want to wrap it up with some rapid fire questions. Just a list of questions that I had. Just give the answer that pops up into your head, and then one question to end it with. And if you have like a question for my audience, then you can share that as well in the end. So
sure.
The rapid questions are I think there's 6 of them. The first one is, because I knew you liked to cook, what's your favorite recipe to cook?
Oh man, I made lasagna from scratch the other day. So I made the sauce, I made the noodles, I made the sausage and the meat. I made everything from as scratch as I could make it, from starting with just bare tomatoes to make the sauce, starting with just, the ground pork and putting in my own spices, to, using flour and eggs and to make the noodles, and it turned out so good. So, it took forever. It took 3 hours, but I think that's my new favorite recipe to do.
And next time you're going to live on a farm and have to weed yourself. And
I think that's as much scratch as I'm going to go. But we'll start from there.
Okay, what European country would you like to visit?
Denmark. Particularly because I was scheduled to go to UX Copenhagen this last March. I was scheduled to talk at UX Copenhagen March 31st, I think is the day I was actually scheduled to talk. And obviously COVID hit and I didn't go. So that's the one that I am committed to going back to. Beyond that, just anywhere. Honestly, I love to travel. Any country I can get to, any excuse I have is great. And one of the things about the United States is that it's so hard to travel internationally, especially when you're in a place like Colorado. If you're in the European Union, right, you can drive, 5 hours and go through 3 or 4 different countries. Colorado, I drive 5 hours. I'm still in Colorado. I haven't left my state. So it's one of those things that I have an excuse to get out there. So just anywhere I can. Yeah.
Okay. Denver Broncos or Denver Nuggets?
Broncos, 100%. I actually have, so I worked for the Broncos back in 2004. I grew up a big Broncos fan, and the Broncos have actually won a few championships. Nuggets have been terrible almost my whole life. I'm still a fan, but not nearly as much as I am a Broncos fan.
Okay. Design roulette on Twitter or sharing UX? Oh, sorry. Design roulette on Reddit or sharing UX fails on Twitter?
Probably Design Roulette on Reddit. So Design Roulette is a subreddit that I've created that has all of the good, the bad, and the ugly of design. Sort of a multi-Reddit feed that I gather together, and that's where I find a lot of my content. I probably spend an unhealthy amount of time on there. I probably need to tone it back a little bit. So that's probably what I spend more time doing, but the more visible side of things is what I share on Twitter.
Yeah, because it's only on YouTube, or?
Yeah, it's only, so Design Roulette is all just based on Reddit. And, I've gone through and shared that a couple of times, going through and showing, what that is, but I haven't gotten great responses from that. So I may go back and try that again with a better marketing strategy to it. It's weird that I'm talking about marketing strategies and videos and that kind of stuff, but it comes down to it when you're trying to use that to make money. But
I found it really funny, and I didn't know that you made that videos actually. So I was on YouTube. Then I saw the Design Roulette and I was hooked for the whole video.
Yeah, so I actually spend so I've actually gone through a couple of times on like Friday afternoons when I haven't had anything else to do and a few hours to kill at the end of the day. I'll get on my Design Roulette and just go through some of the designs and talk about what makes them good, what makes them bad, what makes them ugly, and just kind of wing it with people, so to speak. So it's very off the cuff, but it's fun. So keep an eye out because I'll probably do that again here sometime soon.
Nice. Name a movie we should all see.
Oh man, Casablanca. Casablanca has a really interesting history behind it because it was made during World War II. And a lot of the script was being written as they were filming the movie. There were a few reasons for that. Some of it was just production, but some of it was to kind of take some of what was happening in the world around us at the time. And sort of integrate that into the movie. So it was very, for one thing, it's a tremendously funny movie. For a movie that was being written as it was being filmed, the dialogue and the context of the dialogue is just hilarious. Very well written. I'm shocked that there's gambling going on in this establishment. And the lieutenant comes in and goes, "Ah, sir, here's your winnings." And, "Oh, thank you very much." So, things like that. And there's so many quotes that come from Casablanca that even if you've never watched the movie, the quotes. We'll always have Paris. "Here's looking at you, kid. Play it again, Sam." Which nobody ever actually says "play it again, Sam," but it's associated with the movie, and that's another story entirely. But it's a cultural foundation of a lot of what we think of in terms of movies that it's a must see for anybody that loves movies, and it's a must see for anybody that loves good dialogue. So if you watch no other movie in the next month, find some time to watch Casablanca. You won't regret it.
Awesome. I haven't seen it as well. I'm quite a history geek, especially World War II. So I really need to see it to, yeah, view what they actually did in the World War. They recorded it inside those tough times. That's incredible.
And it's interesting because it was it's written from the perspective of being in French North Africa, occupied French North Africa. With the main
Tunisia,
character being
right?
American.
Or
Morocco.
Morocco. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Morocco.
Oh yeah, Casablanca. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
For sure.
I think I got my geography right. I'm not great at geography, but I think that's right. You have all these different nationalities and these different characters coming in that sort of represent the different countries that have been fighting in this war. Victor Laszlo, I think, is Hungarian. Sort of the one of the supporting male characters. Rick is American, and there's French and German and Italians, and they're all kind of playing their own sort of caricatures of their countries and sort of how they're being involved. The American. This was written at a time where America was just starting to come into the war. So the American starts off very aloof and trying to stay out of things, and trying to not get involved, but finds himself being drug in by the French. And is an allegory for how people viewed these different countries and these different perspectives at that time in the war, which was still very early. I think it was 1941 or 42 that it came out.
42, I think.
Yeah, 42. So, the United States had just been drawn in, things in, years ahead from D-Day at that point. The tide really, really turning. There was a lot of uncertainty. So you get this wonderful perspective of what people thought these countries were like, but also this message of hope, right? The other one that kind of goes along with that is The Great Dictator, which was a Charlie Chaplin movie that was done around then, mocking Hitler.
Yeah.
Right. But has the best single speech of any movie that you can possibly have, especially for when times are tough. And it's Charlie Chaplin actually talking, which you almost never get to hear because he's associated with silent movies. We all think of Charlie Chaplin being very physical comedy, but he was a very gifted orator too.
Yeah.
And he talks about there's a lot that you can take from that speech that he has in The Great Dictator that is, still applicable today. That particularly for our work, that he talks about how radio and television are bringing us closer together than ever before, and the same way the internet is bringing us closer together and helping us realize that we have more in common. And don't fight for brutes. Fight for freedom. Fight for democracy. Let us all unite to kind of kill off this scourge of fascism in the world. And I don't want to make this political, but that is a responsibility that I think professionally we all have, is to make the world a better place.
Stop the dark patterns.
Right, absolutely. So we can unite in the face of dark patterns, absolutely. But we can't sit on the sidelines is the one thing we can't do. So watching those old kind of movies like Casablanca and The Great Dictator, I think those are must-watch movies for anyone wanting to get into the UX world.
I was not foresighting this answer actually. Okay, and the last one is, what is your greatest achievement?
My greatest achievement, oh man, professionally, it was probably getting run over on the sidelines of a Broncos game. So because that was my 15 minutes of national broadcast fame. So when I worked for the Broncos, I was one of the things I did on game day is I would be down on the field with a camera. Right on the sidelines for every game. And for, people that aren't really familiar with American football, it's a very rough and tumble sport. And it's not uncommon that people sort of run into people on the sidelines. It's just, occupational hazard. But I was kneeled down sort of at the end of the field, and the ball was thrown, and I was looking at it through my camera this looks like this ball is going to fall right in front of me.
Right at me.
It did fall right in front of me. And one of the players pushed another player into me and just hit me right in the gut. And I had this really beautiful slow motion replay on the NFL Network that week, and I was made fun of it on the team in a very positive way. for the next week. And that was my 15 minutes of Broncos fame. So we'll list that as my crowning professional moment, because I think more people saw that than they ever had anything else that I've done. Personally, it's convincing my wife that I was the guy to marry. I feel just so lucky that she's a part of my life, and that we've been able to grow our family together, and that we've got so many great years in front of me. I can't imagine a better person to spend my life with. So personally, that would be number one.
Awesome, man. That is initially the greatest achievement you can have. So
absolutely, and hopefully she'll listen to this now, because even though I skipped over her the first time around in the story,
we can just revert it back. So this is the first thing that you talk about.
Yeah, sweetie, if you're listening, got to give you some credit. All right.
Okay. Yeah. One question I always ask to the guest is like, what is the thing you like to explore more of? Mm-hmm. Because this is the Empathy Explorers podcast.
Yeah. I want to do more in terms of statistical analysis and quantitative data research. It's one of those fields that I feel very comfortable with, but I feel that there's another level that I haven't gone to yet. It's so deep, and you have to be a very math oriented person when you get to a certain level of it. I've always done well with math. So I feel like I could go deeper than I have. I just haven't had the time to go through with it, but I think that'd be very interesting. And I think it's one of those skills that is going to be in much higher demand in the next 10 to 15 years, is really having a good quantitative background in terms of research beyond what sort of a business intelligence line of work would have. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But that's probably my next project for me.
Really nice. Are you going to share some of the stuff you learned about that?
Depends on how good I am at it. No, probably so. Nice. I've got a lot in terms of content lined up coming up. So I've got this podcast that I've been working on, talking about design disasters. My next class that I have that I'm working on is a class not just about dark patterns, but on ethical design, that I'm working on with another UX professional that will remain nameless for now, but will be interesting when I announce that. I have a few other classes and professional gigs going on, and then I also have a handful of articles that I'm writing for UX News Magazine. So I've got content lined up for a while, which is, I hope, will give me a good enough time to get good at quantitative data research at the level that I want to be when I start sharing it. So it will come. It's just not going to come for a while. But in the meantime, there's so much else out there to enjoy, and I certainly invite people to come to my content. Hopefully you get something good from it, and know that I want to be just as approachable to them as I hopefully was to you. So please, if you have any thoughts, questions, anything I can do to help you out at all, reach out to me. You can find me on Twitter again at Doug Collins UX. My website's denveruxer.com. You can find me, not just on Twitter, on LinkedIn, everywhere. Instagram, Snapchat. I'm actually on Snapchat. I don't post much of anything there, but all of the non-UX stuff I do pretty much goes to Snapchat. But you can find me wherever it is, and whatever you feel comfortable reaching out to me. I just want to be helpful to you. So please let me know how I can help you, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. I wanted to ask you if you could say your handles, but you already did that speech for yourself, so that's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We always end the episode with a question from the guest to the audience. So do you have a question relatable to what we talked about?
Yeah, I would love to know what your audience does for their own mental health and their own self-care, how they take care of themselves to make sure that they're not being overworked, that they're not getting to a point that's unsustainable for them. So I would love to hear what strategies people have, and how we're going about taking care of ourselves. Because I think if we share those strategies and have those conversations, that'll make it a lot easier for someone out there that needs those strategies to adopt those, or ask some questions, or at least get an idea of sort of a direction to go. So let's all share that. Let's support that.
Yeah, that's really worth it.
And let's support each other. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, great question. And I hope a lot of people share their strategies with that. So, Doug, it's a bit over an hour again, but thank you so much for doing this. And I'm really happy with the conversation, how it turned out, and the insights that you shared on your Twitter, the things that you did to climb up from being in a car to where you are right now. So I'm really happy that you shared that. And thank you so much, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And I certainly hope that, that you and then whoever else is listening, whoever you are, wherever you might be, everybody's having a great day and just an excellent user experience.
Okay. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's about it. Thank you so much for listening to this show. I hope it was enjoyable to you and you also got some valuable insights. It would mean the world to me if you could let me know what you thought about this episode. You can find me on Instagram at ruud.exploor, ruud.exploor, or on Twitter, ruud_explore. So let's have a chat and hopefully see you next time. Bye bye.